It's 1996. id Software just released a brand new game. You've played Wolfenstein 3D and Doom and think to yourself, could this be another masterpiece the guys at id cooked up? You go out to grab a copy of this new game, come home, and place the game disc into the CD-ROM to install it. Once completed, you launch the game, and a demo begins to play on screen, showcasing some cool gameplay footage. In the background, you hear the gritty industrial soundtrack of the game's theme, giving you a taste of the brutal gameplay experience you're about to embark on. You start a new game and strap yourself in for an experience like no other. Welcome to Quake. On June 22, 1996, id Software released another banger of a game series known as Quake. The game was programmed by John Carmack, Michael Abrash, and John Cash. Not that Cash, this Cash. The levels were designed by American McGee, Sandy Petersen, John Romero, and Tim Willits, and the graphics were designed by Adrian Carmack, Kevin Cloud, and Paul Steed. And let's not forget the soundtrack and sound design was done by none other than Nine Inch Nails' Trent Reznor. As we all know, Doom was and still is one of id Software's greatest masterpieces. However, the guys at id wanted to do something more. Go full 3D. Quake was known for its incredible 3D graphics rendering at the time, using OpenGL as its foundation for 3D acceleration. What the Quake engine offered was 3D level geometry, such as 3D floors, swimmable water, 3D skyboxes, texture warping, particle effects, dynamic lighting, 3D models for characters, pickups, and decorations, and enhanced level scripting. Overall, Quake was a massive technological improvement over Doom. Quake, in some way, was essentially Doom 2.0. The plot and gameplay were very similar too. However, there was a little more depth to its overall story. The player takes the role of Ranger, the sole survivor of Operation Counter-Strike, who was sent into a portal to stop an interdimensional entity codenamed Quake. The government had been experimenting with teleportation technology and developed a working prototype called a slipgate. The mysterious Quake compromised the slipgate technology by merging it with its own teleportation system, using it to send death squads to Earth in order to test humanity's military capabilities. Ranger battles his way through overrun military bases and strange otherworldly dimensions, reaching them via the slipgate or their otherworldly equivalent. During his journey, Ranger must collect 4 magic runes from 4 different dimensions, which are required to stop Quake and end the invasion of Earth once and for all. The gameplay of Quake was pretty straightforward. When starting a new game, players are placed in an area with 3 branching paths in front of them, each depicting a different difficulty setting the player can choose from: easy, normal, and hard. However, there is a hidden 4th difficulty setting, Nightmare, where the player has to go look for it somewhere in the intro level. Can you find it? Once you get started, the game plays out the same way Doom does. Players explore levels, fight monsters, locate keys, flip switches, solve puzzles, find secrets, and make their way to the exit without dying. However, the levels now had more verticality, depth, and ambience to them. Players had the ability to jump, free look, and swim through water. Even traps had more variety to them. Quake's single-player campaign is organized into 4 individual episodes with 7 to 8 levels in each, including 1 secret level per episode, bringing the total to 30 maps. Upon completing an episode, the player returns to the hub level, where another episode can be chosen. At the end of each episode, players recover magic runes, which upon collecting all of them, the floor of the hub level opens up to reveal the entrance to the last level, where players will finally meet Quake up close and personal. Players will be required to solve a final puzzle in order to defeat our main antagonist. Quake's design and plot took inspiration from Doom, H.P. Lovecraft, and a Dungeons & Dragons campaign the guys at id Software held. In one of those D&D sessions, there was a powerful character named Quake who fought with a magic hammer capable of destroying buildings. Quake was accompanied by a floating magic artifact named the Hellgate Cube, which attacked his foes with lightning bolts. In 1995, during the research and development phase, the outline for Quake included a medieval setting, hand-to-hand combat, thrown weapons, an area of effect attacked with the hammer, and feeding souls to the Hellgate Cube. Sounds just like the Doom 3 Soul Cube, right? Initially, Quake was supposed to be more fantasy-themed, similar to what Heretic and Hexen were. However, after much deliberation of where the game was going to go, they settled on what we now know as Quake today, a mix of science fiction and fantasy, along with action and horror. This, in turn, though, caused a massive rift among the guys at id Software. I won't go too much in detail about the conflict, but I will leave a link to Sandy Petersen's YouTube video in the description below where he goes over what transpired during that time period at id. After Quake's release, it spawned a few sequels. When looking at Quake 2, Quake the Arena, Quake 4, Enemy Territory, Quake Wars, and Quake Champions, they significantly deviated from Quake's original theme. While Quake was Doom meets H.P. Lovecraft, Quake 2, 3, 4, and on were quite different. Even though the concept of the Slipgate was still present in the subsequent sequels of Quake, the theme greatly shifted from sci-fi fantasy to just sci-fi. Personally, I felt this was the bane of Quake. It didn't know what direction to go in regarding its theme and story. Despite all of them being a fun, action-packed FPS experience, I always felt Quake didn't know what his identity was. With Doom, it knows what it is. It's Doom Guy versus the demons, right? With Wolfenstein, it's BJ Blazkowicz versus the Nazis. With Quake, is it Ranger versus Lovecraftian interdimensional monsters? Bitterman versus the Strogg? Whoever versus the Vajugar and various warriors from various universes? Then back to fighting the Strogg but as Matthew Cain? Then continuing the fight with the Strogg but in a class-based, objective-focused, team-oriented game? And then back to whoever versus the Vajugar and various warriors from various universes? What does Quake really want to be? Even though Quake had an interesting and eventful history, the question now remains, where does it go from here? Also, there are a bunch of other questions that are still left unanswered, like, what happened to Ranger? Will he ever find his way back home? Why are there nail guns and not standard assault weapons or machine guns? Who or what created the Thunderbolt? Who is the Ogre, and how or where did he get a grenade launcher and chainsaw? Where are the military facilities located? Are they based in the US or some secret island in the Atlantic Ocean? How did Quake zombify the base's personnel? Why is everything so brown? Okay, you don't have to answer that one. Please. But seriously, there's too much brown. It's like somebody ate too many X-Lax tablets and had too much fun spraying liquid poop everywhere.
Oh my god. He's shit everywhere. There's shit everywhere! Damn it! Oh my god! He's shit everywhere! He's shit all over the wall!
Sorry about that. Anyway, Quake Champions fizzled out a while ago, and id Software has not made any attempts to remake or do anything else with the Quake series. That is until Doom: The Dark Ages hit the scene. When we look at the newer Doom games in general, starting from Doom 2016, several Quake elements began appearing in the Doom series, such as power-ups, gameplay elements, and art style. Even in Doom Eternal, as well as its DLC add-ons, there were some elements from Quake that made an appearance. By the time Doom: The Dark Ages was released, it was quite apparent where Quake was going. It simply merged with Doom. Throughout Doom: The Dark Ages, there are many Quake elements scattered throughout. The seamless mesh between sci-fi and fantasy themes, The weapon system, like 2 of every class type. We have 2 shotguns, 2 nail guns, 2 plasma guns, especially one that looks like the oscillator nail gun, 2 skull grinders, a rocket launcher, a grenade launcher, and so on and so forth. And with the inclusion of the Lovecraftian-inspired elements, it pretty much united both the Doom universe and Quake universe. So, pretty much you're getting 2 legendary games packed into one, which I think is a great move. If there is anyone who could pull that off pretty well, it's id Software. Despite what happened at id in the past, Quake is still seen as one of the most influential games ever made, being just as groundbreaking as its predecessor, Doom. Quake was praised for its 3D graphics, music and sound design, and fun gameplay. Even its multiplayer capabilities too were received very well and were quite popular. During its first 12 months, Quake sold 373,000 retail copies and earned $18 million in the United States, according to PC data. Its final retail sales for 1997 were 273,936 copies, which made it the country's 16th highest computer game seller for the year. In 1997, id estimated that there may be as many as 5 million copies of Quake circulating. The game sold over 1.4 million copies by December of 1997. Sales of Quake reached 550,000 units in the United States alone by December of 1999. Since then, Quake is still very much loved, and people too are still making custom mods for it, just like what the Doom community has been doing for over 30 years with Doom. Whether it be custom levels, gameplay mods, or creating a whole new gameplay experience, Quake is a virtual Lego box filled with many possibilities. This is why old games like Doom and Quake are still loved today. They are that special and legendary, and most importantly, fun. So Quake, happy 30th birthday. You deserve it, and of course, you always quake my day. Happy fragging. So that's all for now, folks. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like, and if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button for more Doom and retro gaming content. And as you know how my outros go, if you're watching this during the day, I wish all of you a good day. If you're watching this during the evening, I wish all of you a good evening. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see all of you in the next video. Take care.